everyone, and welcome to the Leadership Dialogues. Over the last 1.5 years, we have seen how the pandemic has affected the whole world, and especially the retail industry. Today, we are going to have a very special guest with us who is going to discuss one of the key aspects of retail. But before that, we have changed in the last 1.5 years. They have moved online. We have seen that the retail stores have been closed since last 1 year, 6 months, or depending upon the various countries, various cities, there has been lockdowns. Now, the good news is that since the vaccines have come, we have seen that the retail across the globe is opening up. How will retail, take care of this habit which has been inculcated by the pandemic in the consumers to go online and shop? How will it deal with this habit of the consumers? These and many more such questions are arising as a challenge to the retailers today. One of the answers to that is visual merchandising. Yes, friends, visual merchandising. Today, we will talk to one of the global industry experts, Ms. Carrie Mackin, who is going to share her experience and insights on how visual merchandising can help us in these testing times and how it can be an asset to take the retail back to its glory days and much more ahead. With this, I welcome Carrie Mackin to the Leadership Dialogue. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you.
I take this opportunity to introduce Carrie. Carrie has 40 years of visual merchandising and retail design experience in Ireland and United Kingdom. She taught a visual merchandising program in Dublin Institute of Design for 10 years and has delivered visual merchandising programs throughout Ireland for country enterprise boards and for various retailers. Carrie has an honorable degree in interior design and furniture and Masters of Arts in Higher Education. Carrie is the program chair of the BA Visual Merchandising and Display at the Technological University, Dublin. She is also a PhD candidate at the Modern Interiors Research Centre at Kingston University, London. Her PhD research is on the professionalization of window display in Britain from 1919 to 1939. Welcome, Carrie, to the show.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
Pleasure. Carrie, will start with the first question that comes up front. Is how has the pandemic changed the visual merchandising scene? And how has visual merchandising adopted to the new normal?
Well, how has it changed? Well, the shops have been closed, basically. In Ireland, we've had one of the longest lockdowns globally. We're just kind of emerging from it now. So shops have been closed. So, people haven't been visiting shopping streets. So it's not even as if retailers seem to have used their windows to actually have installed pandemic type displays, because people weren't even going out. They weren't leaving their homes. They weren't leaving their environments. And I think what's happened is that shoppers who hadn't previously are now shopping online. So there's now a whole new cohort of online shoppers that weren't there before. How has VM adapted to the new normal? Well, I suppose what VM staff have been doing is they've been working with retailers online. They've been styling their products for photography so that they can then be posted online. We have a very big retailer in Ireland, which is called Pennies, which is known internationally as Primark. And they have had no online shopping at all. Instead, what they've done is they've used the time to promote their products. So they've been doing a lot of Instagramming, a lot of styling. And when their stores opened, they had unprecedented queues to get in because they had built up an excitement around their product. So basically, I think that, how is VM adapted to the new normal? So that's where we are at the minute. With stores opening, VMs have been really busy. Stores seem to be putting a lot of time and effort into upping their VM output for store openings, which has been really, really good. And I've been seeing quite a lot of that in Dublin and in London. So that's actually quite good. So that's how it's adapted to the new normal. And I know another part of this question was, at the same time, which are the fundamentals which will not change? And the interesting thing is, I think the key functionalities of stores like retail sales and promotional events, I think they will still happen. They need to become more flexible to move between offline stores and online channels as required. And this is going forward because we may find ourselves here again at some stage. And I think we have to just be aware that pandemics or other events like this may occur. And, so in that case, we just need to have flexibility. But also, I think stores will continue to play an important role in retail strategy by providing contrast and excitement through tactile stimuli and experiences that you can't get online. I mean, I had a personal experience of this week. I bought a new duvet cover. Stores weren't open. I had to buy it online. It arrived, didn't look anything like the photograph that I had thought I'd bought. And the texture wasn't right. If I had been in the store, I wouldn't have bought that duvet cover. So the whole thing is, I won't buy a duvet cover online again. I will go physically into a shop to buy it. And I think people are getting excited about being able to go and physically visit stores. Things that will not change for VM are fundamentals using color. So whether you're online or whether you're offline, use of color, your backdrops, and for household items, use of pyramidal grouping and the use of repetition. So those things will not change. They're the basic fundamentals of visual merchandising.
Okay, thanks. Kerry, you mentioned about the stimuli part of it. And can you just elaborate on that? Because that is something which is fundamental to the human nature as well. And that's the difference between, a physical store and an online store.
Okay, well, I mean, the online store appeals to one of our senses, which is sight. It doesn't appeal to any of the other senses that we have, smell, touch, hearing. So the whole thing about retail is not just about sight. It's actually about all those other senses. So I think that's what people are looking for when they go into stores. They want other things to happen. They want to be able to touch the products. I used to work for Habitat in London, and we always had every piece of bed linen that was available. We had a piece of that bed linen so that people could touch it. This is something that you're sleeping on. You want to touch and feel before you buy. And I feel, that applies to a lot of other things than bed linen. There's a lot of other products that people want to touch them, they want to feel them. And that's something that offline stores, real stores can offer that you can't get online.
Sure. Thanks, Kerry. Another thing that we are discussing is the changing role of VM in retail business. What value is VM adding apart from, the normal window dressing part of it?
Okay.
If I may.
Well, now this is anathema to VMs. Okay, so VM, it's not about window dressing. But having said that, window dressing is a very important part of visual merchandising. It's one of our roles, one of our many roles. VM is about creating a store environment that's conducive to consumers wanting to visit, to browse, and ultimately spend. So consider visual merchandising as silent selling. And to do this, retailers need to put a lot of consideration into their stores. I mean, I always, when I speak to clients, I say, start with the outside. You know, the storefront, look at your signage, look at the fonts you're being used, how you're branding your store. And, you know, very simple things like just outside your store, the street, is it clean? Is your glass clean? Does the outside of your store look like you have pride in your store? You know, and if not, if you don't, then why would anybody go in? You know, inside, you really need to keep down on clutter. Now, I'm going to discuss this further a little bit later on, but, you know, you really need to keep down on clutter. The other thing is, it's really important about, I suppose, the overall VM experience is consider your fixtures and fittings. Their quality and design reflect the quality of your products. Your products are only as good as the fixtures and fittings that they're sitting on. If you haven't invested in decent fixtures and fittings, you're immediately devaluing your product. Okay, and you know, consider you know, how old are they? Do you need to update? You know, and look, we're in an era of sustainability. So can you revamp them? A couple of stores that I've given advice to, basically what we've done with very old fixtures and fittings is we've actually taken them and we've sanded them down and we've resprayed them. You know, we've changed the color and that's given them a whole completely fresh outlook. And it works particularly well, obviously, if they're made of wood. So, you know, it could just be a case of refreshing with a new color trend, you know, but look at the fixtures and fittings. This is really important.
Sure. You spoke about sustainability, Carrie, and how important it is today, you know, as an integral part for the retailer, because you mentioned the fixtures example and how you can, you know, may I use this word of refurbish it, or, you know, revamp it, or you can make it, you know, old wine, new bottle kind of a thing. But how important will sustainability come in this, keeping in mind the overall objective of visual merchandising, which is neat and clean, spick and span, and attractive enough to attract the consumers?
Yeah, look, it's all about sustainability. It's you know, it's, we've had COVID. I think that's been quite a turning point in life for everybody, but we've also got climate crisis. You know, so the thing is, I think everything that the retailer has got to consider is sustainability from the ground up, as to where their products are coming from, into how, you know, what fixtures and fittings they're using or reusing, you know. And the thing is, well, maybe 10, 15 years ago, retail store design used to last really, for the very upmarket stores, 3 years. Then everything was gone, thrown out, binned, a whole new store fit out would come in. I mean, this particularly would have happened in, you know, very high-end stores in New York, you know, Shanghai, London. That's stopped now. So now retailers are, and big brands are realizing that, you know, sustainability is a buzzword, and it's also a word that the consumers want to hear. You know, and young people in particular, I mean, they're going to be left with the world, you know, that you know, we've got climate crisis at the minute. So what's the world going to be like in the next 30, 40 years? A lot of brands are pushing sustainability. You know, it's all about sustainability, and sustainability is the word that they're using. So I think that it's something that needs to be considered across the board for retailers.
Thanks, Carrie. Trends. Now, what is your outlook on the trends? And I'm talking about the new trends that are shaping, you know, post-COVID and post-pandemic. And will these trends remain the same for a small retailer as well as a big retailer, or will they differ across the formats, across the size, across the categories?
Yeah, no, I think the trends will cross the board here. So basically, I think one of the first trends, and this was already happening, it's not new, but I think it's going to happen even more so now, okay, and that is giving your customers an experience. Okay, so you need to be able to compete with online stores. So, and so many retail store owners, they're turning to what's called experiential merchandising, and the goal is to provide the customers with a unique shopping experience that will be better than anything they could see online. Now, a lot of what I'm seeing is pop-up displays that will so basically, as a, to surprise and engage the customers. And the whole another big thing is Instagramming, taking photographs. So actually giving customers an area in the shop that ever changes, where they can Instagram themselves either wearing the new outfit or wearing the outfit or in in some area. Okay, and obviously for the customers to share this on social media, because they're out and about, they're living, they're going shopping in the world, they want to share that experience. So that's a big thing. So it's giving customers an experience. The other thing that's happening is pop-up shops as well. They've been around for quite a while, but pop-up shops seem to be happening a lot more now. So, that could be something that you're doing in your store, no matter what size it is. You could be bringing something in for a period of time, making it very exciting for a short period of time, and then it's gone again. Actually, Carnaby Street in London, which is a very famous street from the 1960s, it was known for its, its fashion innovation. And actually that's reinvented itself as a pop-up shop street. So the whole street is full of pop-up shops, and that's really interesting. And they're doing, the pop-up shops are doing interesting things. There was one, it was called My Runaway Group, and it was an award-winning youth empowerment organization supporting young Black creatives. And their pop-up shop contained cutting-edge fashion, beauty, art, photography. They held morning yoga classes. They had identity and mental health talks, and they held gaming tournaments. So the pop-up shop and the experiential retailing is encompassing a lot of different things. Even Facebook, actually, believe it or not, had a pop-up shop in Carnaby Street. And it was creating the space so people could come down and talk to Facebook directly, ask questions that they wanted on topics that most matter to them. And Selfridges hold pop-up shops in their stores. So the thing about pop-up shops, you can either take your store and move it somewhere else and do a pop-up shop, or you do something inside your store, something that you don't normally do. So I think that's quite interesting. There's use of technology as well. There's immersive experiences are a trend, and that's putting the latest technologies at the service of retail stores. So, this again will, this is all about investment, but it means that, virtual reality will allow you to try clothes on without actually physically having to try them on. Also, think about who your shoppers are. It's important for your retail store to know who your customers are, what they want and what they need. Localized merchandising makes sense for retail store chains. Customers in different communities can have different interests and different needs. And the other thing is really, apart from visual merchandising and the visuals, good service. So there is nothing better than going into a store and having good service. And that means that you and your staff know where everything is. If you haven't got something, you know when it's coming in. So, other trends in visual merchandising are, bringing in local celebrities so customers can meet them, attend a class, attend an event, giving them fun basically, and giving them an experience. And I think, that will encourage people not to shop online. I think people are really ready for this. It was already happening. I think what will happen now is it will come in even quicker.
Okay. Carrie, you mentioned about Instagramming, previously also you did refer to it. How important is this Instagramming thing, because we have seen the youth across India are, there on Instagram and across the globe as well. How important does Instagram as a platform influence retail?
Well, it's basically my local shopping mall, which I haven't been in for a long time, but the last time I was there, they have some kind of, like, in the center aisle, there was an ice cream parlor. But they had this whole little kind of area set up for you. So when you get your ice cream, that you go in with your ice cream and you Instagram yourself, and there's a background. And I mean, look, I'm not of this generation, but I'm thinking, wow, there were people were using this, and yeah, I mean, why not, have that area in your store, and it changes, and I think people will want to show that they're out and about and that they're having experiences. So absolutely. And the thing is that, what, it's free social media.
Free social media. Yes, that's it. So if it's available, why not use it?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
That's how you are creating your brand.
Absolutely. And while I'm saying that, can I also say, just remember that when I said about VM is not just about window dressing, it also is about window dressing. Do not forget your windows. You've got free social media by Instagramming, but also what about your windows? Your windows, spend time, spend money, think about them. Also give the passerby and the Instagrammer incredible display windows.
Good point, Carrie. Now, I had touched upon this point, and you also did speak about, online shopping and more people getting used to online shopping. How do retailers get the footfalls back inside the store?
Okay,
well,
yeah, well, I mean, apart from what we just already discussed there, but I mean, one of our experiences, but the other thing is retailers might find themselves with lots of product and lots of stock, because they might have stock left from a year ago, and then they might have ordered new season stuff, new stock in. Okay. Do not let the opening of retail allow you to clutter your stores, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Declutter as much as you can. Look, if you're overstocked, have an opening sale, get rid of as much product as you can, and there are lots of tricks like this, buy one, get one free, buy two, get the third free, or, so get rid of as much older product as you can, and use this as a chance to declutter. Okay. So, I mean, as you said, we want clean spaces that we can see things. Tables, display tables are great to cross merchandise, and use your cross merchandising thinking. So that's basically, if they buy this, would they buy this? So you're, pull things together for the customers. So, basically, I think cross merchandising, what visual merchandisers think of it is, we're offering a service to our customers. So we're actually styling them. We're helping them style things together. Arrange your tables around a store to steer your customers through it, creating pathways. Create interesting sight lines. So when customers come in, they're looking at something interesting down there that's drawing them down. Have focal points in your store as well. This could be a colorful display, it could be a mannequin, it could be a group of mannequins, or it could be a well merchandised wall, whether it's fashion or whether it's homewares. So, think of the environment that you're asking people to come into.
There is always a thin line in retail between too much and too less. Now, how do retailers achieve this balance? What should I keep? How much should I keep? And you used the word declutter just now. So there can be a contradiction there, but that's a dilemma, and that's a thin line that we have to adhere to. Okay,
it's you know what, this is really important, and this is the thing that makes the most difference to stores inside the store is the decluttering, and basically using the old adage, less is more. Okay, over offering a product devalues it. So, for example, 100 items, 100 of the same items on a table or shelf is giving the message, the subliminal message, this product is in plentiful supply. This is a common item. Consumers will walk away. They'll forget about the item. Whereas if you put 95 of those items in your stock room and you leave out 5, okay, 5 of the same items on the sales floor gives the message, there are only a few of these items. I had better purchase it before they're gone. This item is rare. Okay, so it's, you know, it's thinking of the psychology of the consumer. Use your stock rooms. I mean, I've worked for stores where I've gone in to give them advice, and they've had the shop floor is full of product and the stock rooms are empty. You know, I said you can restock in the evening, you can restock in the morning, but get the stuff into the stock rooms. Don't overstock the product. So basically, you know, like the top brands, they just use simplicity when it comes to the way they present the products on their shelves and their window displays, and reducing the clutter and simplifying. Make sure customer focus on what really matters, you know, and that attracts customers, and it will help them decide exactly what they should buy and why they should buy it. So decluttering is the big factor, and use your stock rooms.
I think, Carrie, that is fantastic. You know, decluttering is the core.
Yeah.
Simplicity. Most of the big successful brands have that simplicity in their display and
Yes.
VM. And over offering the product devalues it is again one of the good learnings that, you know, a good point for the retailers to consider in the coming times.
Yes.
With this, I would like to ask you the importance of creativity and how do we get to it, you know. So if I have to do this, I have to make it more cleaner, I have to make my store more attractive.
Yeah.
Where does creativity come into the picture, and how do I get that creativity?
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that earlier point that we just finished discussing at the next question. So just in case anybody's got any questions about that, I will be coming back to that. But creativity, well, I mean, I teach creativity to students. Believe it or not, it can actually be taught. And really, creativity comes from research. You know, your research is very important, primary and secondary. So you need to visit stores in your area. What are your local competitors doing? And this is interesting because people might think, oh my, I'm not going into my competitor's store, but you need to, you know, and, you know, maybe perhaps now is the time for retailers to work together more so than ever before in sharing ideas and what innovations have and have not worked for them, you know. So primary research, go and see what else is happening. What are your competitors doing? And maybe don't look upon them as competitors, but look at yourselves as a community of practice. We're all in this together. Secondly, there is so much information on the internet. Look at what's happening globally. As I said earlier, pop-up shops are absolutely huge at the minute. There's lots of digital experiences. There's lots of other things, lots of very simple things that other retailers are doing globally that you don't have to copy, but be informed and consider what these ideas would work for you in your store. So basically do the research, because the research will lead to creative thinking. And as I said, not particularly copying, but just thinking, okay, you know what, I could try that. I could use that idea in my store.
Creativity comes from research.
Yes.
This is a fantastic idea. And what, Carrie, you are suggesting is the retailers should do primary as well as secondary research.
Yes. Yes,
which will bring more and more ideas for creativity. I think on that part, can you share some out of the box ideas for retailers to pull in customers?
Yeah, well, just kind of going back, I mean, so what VM wise, what retailers do, I think one of the most important things that they need to do at the minute, and this is kind of going back to kind of fundamentals, I think that post COVID-19, I think a lot of us are feeling a little bit nervous. And I think one of the first things that you need to do is retailers will need to ensure that their stores are safe and make certain health related information available to consumers. And I think that's kind of going back to the decluttering as well. You know, we're used to giving our 2 meters. So I think this is a good opportunity when you're decluttering, make sure you've got plenty of aisle space for your consumers to walk through. They will want to feel safe. Okay, so again, make sure you've got your hand sanitizers and facial masks ready in the store. in case of need. Okay. Also, maybe for some of your customers, you might want to make appointments in advance if they're particularly nervous. So you bring them into the store when there's less people there. So I think the shopping experience and the interaction with a certain product in the store will become something more appreciated, and it become a special moment. So, and also the quality of personal services will increase and be a valued factor in purchase decisions. And retail brands that have realized the importance of being authentic and sustainable and have made the effort to build a strong brand identity will be the most successful ones going forward in the future. And these are the ones that will have gained larger brand loyalty from consumers. So you would want to make your consumers feel safe when you're going to your stores. So, it's interesting to see what some stores are doing. I think some stores, some of the larger brands will be becoming more conceptual. The experiential spaces, COS have been doing this for a while with some designers. They've had some very interesting experiential spaces, and they'll include artistic, lifestyle, food and beverage consumption to complement product displays. Ralph Lauren have said that they see what's happening. They believe that in 5 years' time, clothing will be on demand. So that basically what happens is they'll be creating products based on what the customer wants and give it to them when they want it. So their store might feature a row of different style shirts, and then you go in and you say, I'll have that one in blue, or with a blue with a yellow collar, and they will make it. And then you get it, they send off wherever it will get made, and then it arrives at your door, made bespoke. So you go into their store to look and see what they've got, and then it gets ordered and then it arrives. So interesting. Brands, Selfridges have turned hugely to sustainability and also using QR codes in their windows, as have Lacoste. They've got QR codes, so all the information is available on the product that you're looking at in the window. Okay, and as has Zara. So a lot of stores are using QR codes and digital kind of augmented reality. In Zara did a thing that the three-dimensional mannequins kind of appeared on the screen to show you how each garment looks. So that's what kind of the brands with lots of money are able to do.
Sure, Carrie. What is your opinion on the phygital stores, and how will they fare, and where are we currently vis-a-vis, getting into that mode of phygital in terms of having both online and offline presence?
Yeah, well, look, I think the thing is that they will start to work together. So basically, phygital is the combination of physical and digital. And I think you need to play to the strengths of both. Physical stores offer brands the opportunity to deliver experiences that online shopping doesn't offer. There's other things that so kind of combining them. So you might go to the store, buy in store, but actually be delivered to your home, so you don't have to carry whatever the item is, around the rest of your day out. The other thing is in-store reviews, because young people are reviewing things as they're going about. So maybe you actually, encourage them to review your store. Basically kind of, again, it's going back to what they've been using in Zara, that augmented reality to try on clothes. Because stores that were able to open over the last few months, you've been able to physically go in, but you can't try on the product. You can't try it on. So I think using augmented reality to try on clothes in store, or virtual reality to immerse consumers ever further into your brand. The other thing is location-based push notifications. So if you have somebody following you and they walk past your store, they get a push notification, you get 15% off today. So I think that's something else, you know, so people will receive discounts as they walk by your store, for instance, or let a past customer know who's in the area that you've updated your products, particular favorite is back in stock. So it's actually using technology to encourage people to come into the store. I think that will happen.
Finally, what would be your advice, Kerry, to the retailers and VM heads, VM practitioners in India?
Okay, well, you know, globally, this has been a tough year. And we know that the world is aware that India, you know, with a large and dense population, has been particularly hard hit. And it's good to hear that you're kind of coming out of the other side of that. And what I would say to your retailers is, look, you know, it has been tough. Don't rush into anything. Take some time to consider where your business is, reflect, plan before you act. So plan, plan, plan. The other thing is use experts to help you. This will cost money, but will pay off in the long term. If you need to replan your store, employ an architect or a retail designer. And if you need your store merchandised, it's really worthwhile maybe employing a qualified visual merchandiser, and also ask them at the same time to train your staff. You know, a VM working with staff in store to rearrange it can make a huge difference. And the staff can continue on using those basic principles. You know, we had a question about the store of the future. So there is a need for evolution, you know, and I think retailers, we were already in trouble before the pandemic, you know, so I think that what we need to focus on is giving customers what they want, giving them as much natural light as we can, greener spaces, you know, and always consider sustainability at the forefront of everything that you do.
So, Kerry, my next question is, considering the fundamentals of window display, what advice would you give to the retailers?
Okay, well, whatever size your windows are, they're the best free advertising you will have. So really spend time considering how you're using that space. Now, a lot of retailers haven't got closed back windows, they've got open back windows that you can see into the store, and that's good. They're letting light in and all the rest. But even so, you still need to use them to grab the passersby attention. So how do you do this? What do you do? Okay, so, you know, you plan. So you do a diary of your year and you work out at 6-week intervals what's going to be in that window. Now, that's basically some kind of theme or scheme. It's not necessarily means the product. The product should change depending on your footfall every week or every 2 weeks, maximum every 2 weeks. Okay, you know, that's the longest you leave it before you change the product. But you need to draw attention. And how do you do that? Again, this is about doing research. And again, think of sustainability. You know, and a fantastic example of this for me is the store Anthropology and the props that they make and the things that they do with their windows. And the thing is, you know, your display window, it's the personality of your store. It's telling people what kind of store you are and what the personality is. And there's lots of different things that you can use and you can change throughout the year. So obviously there's festivals, there's occasions. Okay, so you need to be thinking of those. There's also things that are happening globally. If the Olympics happens in Japan, I would expect to see lots of Olympic orientated displays, maybe with, you know, a sense of humor going on. You know, obviously the Western world, there's you know, the big you know, holiday occasions. So, you know, and obviously, like, you know, in India, you know, various festivals. Also think about things that are going on locally. If there's something happening in your local area, you can also think about, even kind of like outside global events, like, the landing on Mars, so there's lots of things that you can use. And I think, have a look and see what places like Anthropologie and big stores are doing. Big stores, fantastic windows in London for the first COVID Christmas. Harvey Nichols, a very high-end store quite near Harrods. They had nothing in their windows, only big, huge signs, fabulous signs that said, "Bah, humbug." Okay, so, quoting Dickens, and just, saying like, that's how we all felt. So I think, just think of that space. Again, this is about research. It's about looking at what other stores are doing and use that space really, really wisely. I mean, it could even just be that you get some vinyls done and you put them on the glass of your window with different messages. It could be that you might engage the local secondary school, or high school to make some props for you. It could be that you run a competition. There are lots of ways of using that space. There you go.
Another thing that has been discussed a lot is about the consumer psychology and how it has changed. Can you throw some light on the consumer psychology part, which is affecting the VM?
Well, I don't know how it's changed. I know that in Germany in the early 1900s, there was a lot of research done on consumer psychology. And from that actually came a way that the German window dressers handle product. And that then filtered down into Britain in the 1920s, and it's kind of filtered across the world. So that's using very similar to fine art principles for displaying products. So consumer psychology, I mean, the easiest one to think about and to kind of remember from a VM point of view is the use of the triangle for placing products. And that's when so something is higher, something is lower again, and then your eye travels down and through. So that's a very simple one, and we've used that practice since the 1900s, zero zeros in Germany. The other one is repetition, which is the use of 1, 2, 3s. So that's the use of 3 products, the same products, so the 3 little things of grouping. And that psychology is kind of saying to us, seen it once, seen it twice, see it 3 times, I really remember this. So that's the very, very basic, display psychological fundamentals that we use. Okay, so, but the thing is, kind of on a broader sense, it's just making sure that, we've got space to see things, also color psychology, how you use colors. So, very basic, just go back to the color wheel, what's opposite each other on the color wheel, and how to use them. And the way that I say that color needs to be used in VM, if color is opposite on the color wheel, those contrasting colors, like say one opposite is there's a yellow is opposite purple. So you don't use those 50-50. It's great to use color on somewhere like a wall planogram display or on a table, but one is the main color. So it would be the purples, the deep purples, maybe then with, so 70-80% with just a small amount of like mustardy yellow kind of added in. So use the color psychology as well.
Nice, Kerry. Kerry, what according to you, or maybe let me ask this question in a different way, which are your favorite brands that do good VM?
Okay, so I think I mean, I'd love to go to New York, and maybe one day I will soon, because I need to go and see what's going on there. But for me, I do a trip. I think I do a trip to London every year. Selfridges are always really excellent, and actually it's kind of like they're thinking, the way that they think. Anthropologie, fantastic. I think of the Massimo Dutti. I always really like. Their dressing is impeccable, absolutely fabulous, and very nice, simple props. Zara, again, it's all about the dressing. They spend a lot of time dressing each mannequin. So that's kind of like, the kind of the fashion side of it. Homewares, I think, well, there's obviously a lot has got to be said for IKEA, and I think the way that they use their very high spaces in store. So there's very little signage in IKEA. It's all about going into the space and then where things are, because they use the height for repetition of the product. And I think it's very clever and it's very simple. And obviously they're cross merchandising in their room sets. Just absolutely. I mean, every home store needs to go and have a look at the way that they're not selling that item. They are selling the room, they're selling the lifestyle.
Wow. Some good examples, Carrie, which makes us, as a VM professional, it is an inspirational example for us. Taking this question further ahead, Carrie, any particular project of yours that you remember, as an outstanding one? You may have got n number of them over the last 40 years. Having said that, any one or two examples which you feel that, you cherish those moments of a VM?
Well, I did a big store opening in Dublin of Habitat, the first Habitat in Dublin. That was many years ago. It's no longer here. But I think recently, I mean, my main role now is as an educator. So seeing my students work and the work that they turn out every year is really very rewarding, When I work as a consultant and I go into a store, which is happening less now, obviously, because my main role is teaching. But I think for me, it's when I've gone into a store and I've worked physically so hard. And sometimes when I go in, this has happened to me a couple of times, I go in and the sales staff are kind of a little bit wary. They're kind of thinking, who is this person who thinks they're coming into our store and, what are they, and they kind of, they're a little bit hesitant, a little bit wary. And then once they see the difference that the visual merchandising effort is making, and then they think, actually, you know what, this person is actually turning this store into somewhere I actually now like coming into. It's somewhere that I enjoy working in. And it's that reaction, and it's the reaction from the sales staff, and not so much from the owner or the manager, from the sales staff at the end of that. And then they say, wow, we understand, we really understand now what visual merchandising is about. And you've actually made this place so much better, not only for the customer, but also for the staff. And I think that's been a really rewarding thing for me over the last few years. And that's happened to me twice. In two very big jobs. Yeah.
Interesting and motivating also, Carrie. One last final question is, what are the lessons from the pandemic for visual merchandising?
Okay, well, the thing is, as I said, retail was already in trouble. So the pandemic has just kind of been the icing on the cake for that. And I think the lessons are really to use this time now to see that this is a chance. This is a chance and an opportunity for change. And it's an opportunity to make retail more exciting. It's a time for retail to revamp, revise, metamorphosize, and come out at the other end into being something that is much better than it was before.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you very much for the insights. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we look forward to connect with you in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.